Welcome. Today I would like to talk about my first game in this year's Bundesliga season, and already in the first match I got an absolute dream opponent. So we played against the team of Baden-Baden, and I played against Vachier Lagrave, the current World Blitz champion, and for many years one of the strongest chess players in the world. Not only that, also a player with a very, very exciting style who goes for e4 and goes all for all the principal lines, a lot of tactical vision and so on. So I was extremely excited to get the chance to play against him and even to do so in Aachen with people visiting, and it was a great honor. Maxime opened the game with e4, and I decided, okay, I would settle for the Philidor because in the end it's the opening I know best. So even though maybe objectively it's slightly worse for black, I'm fine to play a line which at least I know. So we go for the Antoshin line, and we basically repeat a game which I played against Markus Raga, which I also commented on the channel. So if you want to know more about the opening, you can go back to that game. Yeah, I went for knight c6. Here d5 is a different option, but okay, I went for knight c6 again and basically repeated the game which I played against Raga. And now, as Raga, he also went for e5, and we reached the following position: takes, queen e7, and now he went for bishop c4, threatening rook he1. And yeah, white of course has some advantage in development, but in the end what's going to happen is that I'm going to get a weakness on e6, but that's just one weakness. So here he deviated by taking on d8, which is slightly more precise compared to the game against Raga, but these are really opening nuances and we will not go into that. So after takes, he now took on e6, and now he seemed to have been prepared. I'm not sure, maybe not, but in any case he went for the move the computer suggests, namely the move knight to e4. And in between these two games I had actually analyzed this position a little bit, and yeah, the computer doesn't like it too much for black, but I felt it's not so bad, and also in the game against Raga I had the feeling it's absolutely playable. So that's why I decided to repeat it. And after knight e4, I had prepared this move e5. And I think now the main line of the computer is something like knight takes f6, g takes f6, and rook e3. And white gets some attack, but it's all not so easy. So I can't take because of rook e7. But I'm not going to go too deeply into what I think about the line for obvious reasons. But I can say that it's not as simple for white as it might look. So in any case, after e5, he thought for some time and then played the move queen to h4. Yeah, now I was out of book as well. So what is white's idea? Well, I mean, in principle, he wants to play against this weak pawn on e5. And black basically wants to try to create some counterplay on the d file, because at the moment the king is still kind of vulnerable. So in some cases, some motives like queen d7 followed by some queen d2 eventually could be a nuisance for white. Of course, if I go queen d7 here, this does not work, so maybe you can check why yourself. Well, actually he can just take with the queen, and then of course he just wins the queen back and gets an extra pawn and wins the game. So for that reason, I didn't play queen d7, but I played king h8, hinting at a future maybe queen d7 or maybe also rook d4, and there are definitely many different options here. Also here, white has different moves, like for instance f3 to consolidate is what the computer gives, but I think what he did leads to already almost equality. So he went for knight c3. I think after f3, white is still slightly better, but it's nothing too special. So I would also not be too worried to repeat this line, to be honest. Okay, knight c3. Yeah, and here I thought, what is white's plan? So does white want to go f4? And then I thought maybe it's not so clear, because if he goes f4, I have a nice trick with e4. So I'm going to show that. I played b5 in the game, and now he went for a3. So what happens if he goes f4 to try to put pressure on the e-file? Well, in this case, I have a very nice tactical motive, namely to play the move e4. And suddenly the position is, I think, already quite good for black. The point is, if he takes with a knight, on e4, I can go rook e8. And now he cannot unpin himself here, so he just loses material. And if he takes with the rook, now I'm pinned, I can't take the rook, but I can just go queen d7. I'm threatening to take on e4, so he has to defend against this. And if he goes for something like rook e1, I can go for check, king b1, b4, yeah, and now either the knight moves somewhere and I can give mate, or if the knight moves here, I can take here, and now I have the checkmate. Yeah, so it's nice to have these fantasy lines in your head, but of course a player with almost 2800 is not going to fall for this. Yeah, but after b5, instead he just went for a3. Kind of acknowledging that b4 might be a threat. And now I just renewed the threat with the move c5. And after c5, I was decently optimistic about my chances. I thought I now get a lot of counterplay with b4, and if he goes rook d1, I might even go rook d4, and I was quite happy about that. But then he actually went rook d1, and suddenly I wasn't so sure anymore. The point is, if I go rook d4 now, I was slightly afraid of queen to h3. And now I have to suddenly defend this a6 pawn. But after the game, Maxim told me that actually I could just go b4 here and it would all be fine, because after queen c8 I always have knight g8, and there's not really a big fuss. And if he takes, I can just take back, so there's also nothing. And if he takes here, I can also just take back, c takes b, and the position is decent. So probably he should settle for something like this, takes. And I guess this position, like after, let's say, queen d6 check, is very close to equal. Yeah, black has a slight space advantage here, but I mean, still there is this isolated pawn, but there's nothing really going on. So I think I should have gone for that. Instead, after rook d1, I went for takes, which in itself is also fine. And now after knight d1, I went for queen to e6. Yeah, so this was again to prevent this idea of queen h3 and queen to c8 check. A prophylactic move, and at the same time also threatening queen to a2. So a multi-purpose move, and he defended against this with b3. Yeah, and I think here now I went for the completely wrong plan. So I went for an activation of my king, and actually it's just conceptually wrong, because if my king is on f7, it's very susceptible to checks from the 7th rank. And I should really have just gone for h6 here. And I think after h6 the position is still very, very close to equal. I will go, at some point maybe I will even go e4 and queen e5, and it's probably fine. So another thing I was calculating here was what happens if I go queen to f5. But there I was slightly afraid of knight to e3. And after queen f4 just takes. And here he has different moves. He either has this something like knight f5, but he also has this simple knight d1 with the idea of regrouping the knight and putting the knight on d3. And I had the feeling that this knight endgame, while it should probably be holdable, it's not really what I want. Okay, so after b3 I went for king g8 ultimately after calculating these lines, and this is just conceptually wrong, so I should have gone for h6. Well, I played king g8, which is a mistake, and now after knight e3, king f7, we will see that the king is just misplaced here. It would be much safer on h7. Yeah, and he nicely illustrates what the problem is now, because he has only one piece which is not playing at the moment, and this is the queen. But he can now just go for queen g3, and now he will eventually penetrate via the 7th rank. Okay, after queen g3, now I made maybe already the decisive mistake, or at least a pretty big mistake, with playing c4. The computer gives some insane line and says it's still all fine, but this is not something which is findable for humans. So computer wants to just allow him to give the check on b7. So let's say go for g6 here. And after queen f3, just completely ignore that. And after the check, just to give up the pawn, takes, and now go for counterplay with knight e4. But yeah, of course, this is not something which a human can, or at least which I can't calculate at the point where I play g6. So it's very unnatural to just allow him to give a check on b7. For that reason, I decided to spice things up a little bit, because my feeling was his king is quite weak. And I would actually like to create some counterplay. But this move c4 is too committal, and eventually I will lose this pawn. And of course, if you go for c4, you accept this danger. But yeah, in the game, there was nothing, I think, which I really could do to prevent this. He took, and now I just went for queen f3. This is what I had calculated as well. Threatening queen b7 again, e4, and queen f4. And now I thought, okay, I go for queen e7. And at least I have this square on c7 covered. And this queen on f4, I mean, it looks nice, but maybe it's not so easy, because at least I have now some counterplay against the a3 pawn. So one line, which I think I misevaluated a little bit, was takes. So I was thinking that he should go for that. And then queen to c5. The point here is that after knight d6 check, let's say king e6, he's now losing the a3 pawn, but at least he gets e4, takes, takes. King d2 is queen b4, so he has to settle for king d1. And now I guess this position, yeah, I don't know, either I go for something like queen d4, or maybe I can even take. And maybe even something like this is not so easy, because my passer is also quite quick. So of course that's by no means an easy draw, but maybe this position is holdable. In any case, after queen e7, he found something which is probably even stronger, at least from a practical point of view, namely the move king to b2. And I had thought that this is not so easy, but yeah, I was completely wrong. So after king b2, I went for this check, king c3, and now I thought, okay, queen b1, this looks really scary for him. But in fact, I have absolutely nothing. So complete misevaluation here. What I should have done, and that's what he told me after the game, was to just go back to e7, attack on a3. But now he had calculated a long line, and he showed this to me after the game. Takes, queen c5, and now just a4. He can go queen d6, takes, and knight e5. And this is the position where he basically started his calculation. He calculated this move and this move. And yeah, so, but it's way beyond what I was able to calculate. And in any case, also this kind of position is, of course, very difficult for black. If I'm able to survive at all, it's really, really close. Okay, so, but I should have tried this in any case. So queen e7 was the last chance to remain in the game. Instead, I went for queen b1, which is now just leads to a lost position. He took on c4. He's now just a pawn up. He gave a few checks. And now he just played knight to b2. And I completely underestimated this knight b2. I thought if he has to settle for this, then I get some counterplay here. But there's not really anything. And now I finally want to free this knight for some attack with king e6, but this is another mistake, so I should settle for some move like queen f1 or queen g1. But already here the position is quite bad. I'm just a pawn down for nothing. So king e6, g4, h6, and now just h4, threatening g5 and queen f5, and there's not really anything I can do. Went for queen e1, and now he's very precise, check, queen e5 check, and now just g5. And I don't have any checks, that's the main problem. And now after takes, takes, my knight is almost trapped. I can't go to something like g4 because it would be just captured, so I have to go to d7, but now just g6, very strong. I can't take because of queen e8. So I'm basically forced to go back to f8. And yeah, here there's again a sequence of moves where you really see this crazy strength. Yeah, so he came back to the board and just played Queen d4. Very hidden, I would say. On the one hand, defending. On the other hand, attacking, maybe preparing some Queen d6. Yeah, the idea is now that after King e8, which is the most natural and what I played, he just plays Knight to d1. Another very, very strong move, just regrouping his pieces. And there's not really anything I can do, yeah. Okay, I played Knight f6, but now he just brings the last piece into attack, so Knight and Queen together now are deadly for me. Okay, the game ended with King e7, and now he found a very nice finishing sequence as well. Takes, takes. Okay, takes, and now he has a forced win, so maybe you can pause the video and you can find the winning combination for my opponent. Well, maybe you found it. It's just Queen to f7. If I go here, he can just take, and it's a winning pawn endgame. And in the game I played this move, but now it's the same story again. Queen e7 on King d4, he has Queen a7 with a skewer, and on this can just take. So after Queen e7 check, I resigned. Well, what can I say about the game? I think the opening was okay. And then I missed some chances, mainly playing this rook d4, or maybe going for this plan with h6 and king h7. Yeah, and then it was already quite difficult, and then I had to find some really computerish defenses. Maybe it was not yet lost, but then I went for the c4, which was too committal, and he exploited all of these inaccuracies that I made, and deservedly won the game. So it was a game where you could really, really see the big gap in playing strength between me and these players. So for that reason, I didn't even have a bad feeling after the game, because I just felt that the gap in playing strength is so huge, and I was thankful for the opportunity to play him. Well, that's it for today, and in the next video I will discuss the second game from the weekend, where I played against the new German superstar Vincent Keimer. So thanks a lot for watching, and see you next time.